From college athlete to real estate. Join us as we learn how Caroline Coladonato launched her super successful real estate career, closing $4 million in her first full year in real estate and on track to almost double that this year. Caroline has been recognized as one of RAS Media's top 25 finalists nationwide for the 2025 Rookie of the Year. Stick around to hear her story and what has driven her success.
Welcome to Unlocking Real Estate, My First Commission, where we dive into real stories, big wins, and early lessons learned from highly successful rookie real estate agents and brokers. This is the podcast where we explore how real estate transforms lives, one home at a time, by sitting down each week with a new agent or broker who has found incredible success in their first year. Your hosts are instructors and leaders at Colibri Real Estate School, one of the largest real estate educators in the nation, where we focus on helping people like you get started or find continued success in their careers.
Hello, and welcome to Unlocking Real Estate, My First Commission. I'm your host, Tina Lapp, Head of Industry Relations and Career Excellence at Colibri Real Estate. I've been in real estate education for over 30 years, helping individuals enter and thrive in their real estate careers. We are here today with Caroline Coladonato. Caroline, will you take a moment to introduce yourself, where you live, and what company you're with?
Yeah, of course. I'm Caroline Coladonato. I live in Paoli, Pennsylvania, and I am with Remax Ready, that's located in Conshohocken.
Wonderful. Welcome and thanks for joining us today. Caroline, what were you doing before you started your real estate journey?
So my first job out of college, I attended Villanova and graduated right in the midst of COVID. So it was honestly really difficult finding a job. And the first offer I received was for a mortgage company. So I knew it wasn't going to be my cup of tea, but I figured I would start, working and get something on my resume. And from my time at the mortgage company, I actually, talked to a lot of realtors and was really hands-on in the industry. So then I started to think about, just making that move over to the real estate side of things. So I worked in the mortgage industry for about less than a year before I obtained my license and then switched to real estate full time.
Okay. So how'd you make that decision to pursue real estate? What was the inspiration there?
Well, both of my parents are actually entrepreneurs. They own their own business in Malvern. They're both accountants. So I think growing up and being around, people that have run their own business and founded their own business always was, an inspiration to me. Yeah. And, I think working in the real estate side of things, having a little bit more of a creative outlook versus, the accounting side of things that my parents do, I thought that would be a better match for me. So, I took the inspiration from them and then decided to delve into something that I thought would be a little bit more, worthwhile for me.
Yeah. And so you were in mortgage, you have a little bit of insight into real estate. Was there a specific moment or person that helped you make that decision? Like, all right, now I'm going to do it. Now I'm going to go get that real estate license.
Yeah, it's actually funny. One of my high school friends, her mom is a successful realtor to a neighboring brokerage. Yeah. And, I always looked up to her since I grew up, around her and everything. And I talked to her about potentially making that switch and jumping over. And she really encouraged me to do it and kind of took me under her wing my first year in the industry, which is cool. So I give her a lot of kudos throughout that process.
For sure. And that's a big help, having someone that's got your back, helping you through the process, I'm sure is a big help. So you talk to her, you decide to go get your license. How'd you do it? How'd you take classes online in the classroom? How long did it take? Walk me through that.
Yeah, of course. I'm trying to remember as best as I can. It wasn't that long ago, but it feels like it was.
Right.
So I was still working full time at the mortgage company, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. So I remember in the new year, I decided to just take classes on the weekends. So if I recall correctly, I think from the moment I started the classes to actually passing the test and obtaining my license, it was around 6 months. I started in January, took a few classes Saturdays and Sundays on the weekends in January and February. And then I had to take another series of classes in, I think, like April. And then I was eligible to take the exam in May. And then I finally was licensed in June. And then that's when I made the switch and gave my 2 weeks notice and then just jumped right in.
Okay, so you did it. You went all in from the get-go. Love that. Did you do classes online in the classroom? How'd you manage that while you're going to school full-time? You're working full-time.
Yeah, so it was on the weekend. So I was actually in person at Coley Associates in Newtown Square. So yeah, all the classes were in person in a classroom setting.
That's great. You must have been exhausted. I'm exhausted hearing the story. So
my mom calls me an Energizer bunny. I feel like I don't get exhausted.
Yeah, you just keep going. So you went through the classes on the weekends. What was the hardest part about going through the classes and getting your license? 6 months isn't bad, by the way.
No, it really wasn't. I think the hardest part was just soaking in all of that information because it's a lot to learn and manage. And I think it's very different from the information that you learn in the classroom is kind of different to what you apply in real life. So trying to understand and wrap my head around everything that you're learning, like textbook wise, versus I want to maybe compare it to like street smart. It was different. So just understanding both of them and figuring out when to utilize each piece of information was challenging in the classroom for sure. And I think, this might sound silly, but a lot of people that I was taking classes with were older than me. They were maybe, parents and things like that. So they all had houses. And I felt like I was I still am living with my parents at the time. And I think I always felt like I was a little bit behind with understanding the process of getting a mortgage and, what does your earnest deposit look like and inspections. I didn't even know what that was. So I felt like a little bit behind understanding from maybe other people in the classroom just because I didn't have that experience of buying my own house. But looking back on it, I mean, it really doesn't matter at all.
Yeah. And you made a good point there too. What you learn in the classroom isn't necessarily what you need for the day-to-day practice of real estate, right? So going into your first year, what were your expectations when you made that leap and said, okay, I'm licensed, see a full-time job, like now I'm my own business, right? What were your expectations for that first year?
Well, luckily my family friend that, really guided me through the process, she kind of prepped me and let me know that, your first year is a growing year. It's rare that you're going to have a lot of settlements or clients and you're not really going to be busy with things like that, but you're really just laying the foundation. So in that first year, that's exactly what it was. I was getting my footing. I was still learning a lot of things and just setting up, processes. What does my day-to-day look like? Because you really are kind of making your own schedule. So what did I want to be busy with? Was I working on my CRM system? Was I working on advertising or, how was I getting out there? So my first year was just soaking in a lot of information and learning. And I feel like it wasn't until like my second or third year that it was actually, picking up some steam and pace and having a good client list and a pipeline. So yeah, that first year is really about just setting that foundation.
Yeah, that's great. And so I want to go back. You said you had gone to college. You were a college athlete, weren't you?
Yes. Yeah.
And do you think that plays into your work ethic and drive and those kinds of things?
I definitely think so. And I would hope that's what it comes from. Looking back to high school and then into college, it was a lot of planning your own schedule. Everything was like timed perfectly. You had to go to class. Our field was off campus. So you had to get to the locker room early, get to practice, warm up. And then when you're done practice, you have to quickly get ready for your next class. And then you have to fit in study time. So I think I've just always been regimented like that and kind of hardwired to build my own schedule. And I remember in college, I had like this weird planner. Everything was blocked out like perfectly to an hour. Like everything was planned out. And once I started making my own schedule and made the switch, it honestly wasn't as much of a shock to me as I think it might be for some people, which was a nice thing because I had that foundation of just staying on top of myself and, setting goals and making sure that I'm actually, doing something throughout the day that's going to be productive into my career. So I actually ended up getting like the same notebook and doing the same thing where I'm blocking out my time. What am I spending my time on? And I think it was a nice realization to see like how many hours you're actually working each week and what that goes into. And I mean, now I look back and I still do it, and it just helps me see like, all right, maybe this week wasn't the best week. Why was that? What other things was I doing? And was I getting distracted? So long answer to your question, but yes, I think being a student athlete kind of helped me structure my own day and stay on top of things and set goals that translated into, making my own schedule.
Yeah. And that's where your Energizer bunny comes from, right?
Like, I think so.
You're
Probably.
very, very scheduled and regimented, but it pays off, right? It pays off because look at what you've done now. So how long after you got your license did you close your first transaction?
It actually took a long time. At least for me, it feels like it took a long time. I think it was a year and a few months. Okay. In the meantime, I had a few rental sales or properties, but no official like sale. It was a year and a few months, I want to say.
And how did you not get discouraged, or did you?
I definitely had my moments.
Yeah.
And I think, being surrounded by my family was definitely helpful because, again, my parents, like they have their own company. So they constantly, were making sure that I was just staying on track and staying the course because they understand more than anyone what it takes to run your own business. So I definitely would have my moments like, what am I doing here? This is crazy. But, I think I also, with the athletic side of myself, I get very competitive. So not necessarily with other people, but with myself. So I thought, you know what, I made this big jump. Why would I give up after a year? Like it definitely takes, everyone says it takes a long time. Like who cares? I have nothing to lose. I'm going to keep working at this. So, I think it was easy to stay motivated, but I had my moments. I would get upset.
Yeah. And then, so when did you finally hit your stride? When would you say, like, what happened and how did that happen?
Yeah, I think it really wasn't until last year that I hit my stride. So 2024, 2023, I definitely felt more confident with, the agreement of sale, the, residential leases and all the paperwork, which, ironically it's a good, it helps you feel more confident in yourself when you understand those forms, the paperwork and everything. So I think 2023, I felt that. And then last year, I actually had the momentum and the client base that led into this year as well. Last year was definitely like a kind of a firework moment where everything was falling into place, I feel like.
Beautiful. And tell us more about what fell into place. Like what was working with securing clients? Let's start there.
Definitely. I started joining a lot of networking groups. So that's actually a big part of my week and where I spend a lot of my time is, meeting other people, meeting people in the industry, whether that's, an electrician, a contractor, lenders, things like that. And just surrounding myself with other business owners, even if it's like, someone that does marketing or whatever it may be. I think that just helps your whole mindset that other people are doing the same thing. It's a grind. So structuring my week with networking groups and also within those networking groups, I started to get a lot of referrals, repeat clients that were renters. And I would get a lot of referrals from my renters because, they were the first realtor that they're probably meeting and to take the time to help them find, an apartment. I built really good relationships. And I'm always grateful for that with my renters, because they understood that it wasn't necessarily a lot of money, but I spent a lot of time with them and making sure that they were taken care of. So I think last year I got a lot of business from them, which was nice.
Yeah, and showing them the path to home ownership, right? Like
Yeah.
it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So how'd you market yourself as a new agent? Like when things started clicking, like was that ever an issue being a new agent or not really?
Not really. I think I have a lot of friends that are in my same age group, and they knew I was making the switch. So I think people understood that, oh, that's cool. She's making this switch. And, I think the biggest thing was being myself on social media. Don't really have a filter, and I like to just have fun with my social media. So I think I just made sure I was staying true to myself and, marketing what I was doing during the day, even if it was like, nothing sales related. I was going to get a new cup of coffee somewhere, or oh, I got a flat tire, or whatever it was. What was
Yeah.
I doing during the day? And I think people saw that and saw the authenticity come through. And
Yeah.
that's kind of how I marketed myself in the beginning, for sure.
That's great. And being out there. So what social media channels are you on?
The usual, like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn a little bit, but I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people are successful on LinkedIn, so maybe I should do a little bit more of that. But I think really those three. I
Yeah.
don't do YouTube or any of that stuff, but
Yeah.
Instagram's my big one.
Yeah, and giving yourself a personality so people can see it.
Mhm.
That's great. So, other than marketing, talk a little bit more about your networking and your like what you're involved in the community.
Definitely. Actually, funny, this morning I came from a field hockey game in Newtown Square, Pennsylvania. That's actually where my class was,
Yep. Yeah.
when I got licensed. So I do coach high school field hockey at a school nearby, Marple Newtown High School. So that it takes a lot of my time in the fall, which is why I look a little disheveled right now. We were running around at a scrimmage earlier. But
You look great.
yeah, so I like to, involve myself with a sport that I once played,
Yeah.
and dedicate a lot of time and commitment to those girls and the community and everything like that. So that's what I
Yeah.
do in my free time. And then, yeah, networking. Our group, actually, I run, it's called Masterminds Networking, and we are located in Malvern. So we are trying to get more involved with fundraising. And I know we have a few ideas on the horizon, but within those networking groups, I definitely try and, stay involved with things nearby.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And so looking at where you are now, and you sort of have picked up speed in the last year, you've really hit your stride. What were some of the biggest challenges in getting there?
Hmm, that's a great question. I think some of the biggest challenges are always going to be comparing yourself to other agents. I think social media, while it's a great thing, you can advertise yourself. You're also looking at other people and what they're doing, and you're wondering why am I not there? Why can't I, get there? But I really think you just have to tune all of that out. And that's sometimes I would think about that, and I'm like, God, am I ever gonna be that person that's selling real estate, and it comes easier to them, but you can't even look at that. So I think that was a big challenge, because it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Social media is everywhere. You can't really escape it. So you just have to, block that out, I think. That
Yeah.
was definitely a challenge. And another one that I like to think wouldn't be a challenge, but it's a different experience for me, was the idea of being a younger agent was something that maybe in my own head I was holding myself back from, because I would meet people sometime, a lot of my renters, we were around the same age, but some sellers or buyers, they oftentimes were older than me. And I felt like, oh, maybe that must mean they must know more than me, or they definitely know what they're doing. Why would they listen to me? So sometimes I would get in my own head about that, but I feel like I'm long past that at this point. I mean, you can't, it's positive self-talk, and you can't get in your own head about those things that don't really matter if you know your stuff and you're, looking out for your clients as best as you can.
Yeah. So how do you maintain relationships with your clients? What do you
Great
do to
question.
sort of keep them?
Yeah, so I try to keep up with my CRM, but I'm not that great at it, to be honest. I'm a big handwritten note girl. I love stationery, and I always write down, the dates that my clients went under contract, or even little birthdays. I usually am friends with them on social media afterwards, like on Facebook, and they
Yeah.
always send me reminders about their birthday, or, an anniversary or things like that. So I love staying in touch with them that way. I'll send a little, birthday text here and there, or
Yeah.
I'll write, handwritten thank you cards or anniversary cards to when they bought or sold their
Nice.
house. I think that goes a long way, because not many people take the time to do that. And
Hmm.
again, that's me being authentic, and I love writing notes.
Yes, and I am sure they enjoy receiving those. So
Yeah.
great way to stay in touch. What would be something that you would recommend to individuals that are thinking about a career in real estate, or maybe just getting started and have a hard time, or having a hard time getting started? Any advice for them?
Yeah, I feel like the biggest thing when you're getting into the industry is just to have the right expectations,
Yeah.
and to try not to compare yourself to experienced agents, or even someone that might have just gotten licensed and they've had their first or second closing. Like, you can't compare yourself, because everyone's on their own timeline and there's enough business to go around. So
Yeah.
I would recommend just knowing what to expect. You might not have your first sale in the first 6 months, you might not in your first year, but just make sure you're setting the foundation. You're learning the contracts, you're learning the forms, you're doing everything that you can. So when a client does walk through the door, you're fully prepared and you're ready to give them your 100% attention and care. So I think just, setting that foundation is the biggest thing you can do when you're getting in
Yeah.
the industry.
Yeah. What keeps you in real estate? Like, what do you like most about it?
I love the interactions with people, and I love that my schedule's different every day. People always say you make your own schedule in the real estate industry, which, yes and no. Sometimes I'm like, God, I didn't sign up for this. What am I doing here? But it goes such a long way when you are interacting with different people, and every day's a different day. I feel like, you hear people with their 9 to 5s, and it's like you're stuck in this routine. It would get a little boring sitting at a desk all day, at least for me. That's just my
Yeah.
personality. But I love that, tomorrow it's completely different. I have a lunch meeting, and then I have a showing in the evening. Whereas today I had, morning appointments. So I like that I'm always, switching it up, and, meeting different people is the fun part, because everyone has, a different story or a different reason for why they're buying or why they're selling. And you really get to know them a lot through the
Yeah.
process. And I feel like I've grown really close to my clients and have these great relationships and friendships. So those are my
Yeah.
favorite parts.
Yeah, that's great. And so, are there any particular client interactions or transactions that stand out to you, that just meaningful to you or unique in any way?
Definitely. I think the one that happened last year, that was like a reminder to myself for, why I'm in the industry and why I love this business, was I was connected to a client that was actually looking for an apartment for their daughter, who was they were moving from out of state, but the daughter was going to attend Villanova in the fall.
Okay.
And I connected with them and thought, oh, that's so cool. Like, I graduated from there a few years ago, whatever. We had this great conversation and relationship, and they ended up finding an apartment for her. And it was a situation where the landlord was listing it themselves. So I didn't get a commission from it, which was fine. It was a lesson learned, but I loved the interaction I had with those people. And then fast forward a few months later, they reached out to me. We stayed in touch on and off throughout the summer. They reached out to me that they were relocating from out of state and looking to buy, a property that was over $1 million. So then we ended up looking, and I was working with them and guiding them through that process. And then, yeah, not soon after, we settled on a house nearby that was over $1 million. So to me, it was like, wow, to have that organic
Yeah.
relationship and interaction with someone that I didn't get paid for up front, which was, again, fine. But then to have it go to something so large, and it was just very cool. And it still blows my mind that that's how that all worked out. And they were just a wonderful couple. And, we still stay in touch and everything. But that was the biggest transaction that sticks out in my mind.
Yes, and congratulations. That's a
Thanks.
great example. I love that. So what's next for you? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Anything different?
In 5 years, I don't know, honestly, now that you asked that. I would hope that I definitely plan to still serve my clients and, stay local. Our Remax office actually just expanded. So I mainly go to the one in Conshohocken, but we also partnered with our Malvern location along with our Newtown Square location, which is great for me when I, am busy down that way in the fall. I just hop over to that office. So I definitely want to stay put with my Remax group. These, my brokers have helped me grow tremendously within my first few years. So, I'd like to stay loyal to them and continue learning with them. So I picture myself, same brokerage, but hopefully, just serving more clients. And yeah, who knows where that'll take me.
Yeah, exactly. So any tips or tricks that you would like to share that have been particularly successful for you?
For sure. And this is actually going back to my brokers and things that they've taught me along the way, because, they really have taken the time to give me some helpful hints that they've learned from their early years until now. So something that I always do is I usually am a big texter when it's, friends or family, whatever. But when it comes to working for someone, you have to have those phone calls, whether it's calling a listing agent, calling a client, answering your phone, and really encouraging those in-person meetings. So even if it's a stranger or a new client that you don't really know, or a referral, other than just like an e-meet, even if it's Zoom, I would recommend trying to get face-to-face, because that really solidifies the relationship. And I think you can understand each other a little bit better. And it goes a long way when you're working together for, sometimes a really long period of time. So my biggest tip is get on the phone, try to avoid texting as much as possible, because, there can be misunderstandings or things come off differently over text. So try to talk over the phone or meet people in person.
That's a good one. Real estate or otherwise. That's a great one. So, Caroline, we're going to go into our lightning round. I'm going to ask a question. Your first initial thoughts are fine, 60 seconds or less. Some of it a little outside of real estate, but we're going to jump in. So, is there a book you've read or a podcast you've listened to that you would recommend to our listeners, and why?
Yes. This is so non-real estate related, but a lot of my friends and I, we love reading books and then sharing some of our favorites. And I think my all-time favorite is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. It's about these sisters, and I have a sister, and it's historical fiction, which usually I'm not drawn towards, but it's just a really good read. And I think it's a really emotional read, but in a good way. It, helps you understand those family bonds are the most important.
Yes, that's a great one.
Have you read it?
I have not. I am aware of it. Yeah. So if we had a time machine and you could go back to the day you started this journey, what might you do differently?
What would I do differently? That's a really good question. I think I would be a little bit more confident with some of my earlier clients. Trying to look back at some of those first meetings, I think I was getting in my head, or, felt like I didn't have the resources and not giving myself enough credit. So I think I would maybe use tools like our, Bright MLS database, make sure I'm researching as much as possible and just going in with a more confident mindset. I don't know if it always showed that, I wasn't confident, but I think mentally I would be stressing myself out. So I think just, changing that mentality would be a big change of mine.
Yeah. And did you have people that you could call, a mentor, a support system of any sort?
Not really. I think when I first started, like I had mentioned, that family friend of mine, I kind of used her in that way. But, she was busy and I didn't want to always, be poking her with questions here and there. But once I switched companies over to Remax with my brokers, they've turned into my mentors. And I still call them like every week with questions.
Yeah.
So I really lean on them for support.
Yeah. And it sounds like that's really when things turned around for you and your career in real estate really took off.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you could have dinner with someone, dead or alive, anyone, who would it be and why?
Oh, I know for sure. Probably Barbara Corcoran. I love her. And I think from a career standpoint, I think she is so cool. And yeah, one day I hope to be as successful as her. So I would love
Right?
to meet her in person, ask her for all of her tips and tricks. Yeah, definitely Barbara.
Yes. Invite me along. I'd love to
Yeah.
join.
You're invited.
Caroline, what'd you do at work yesterday?
What did I do at work yesterday? I had my morning meetings. I had a few appointments. This is where I lean on my planner. I can't even remember what I did yesterday. But like I said, I am coaching field hockey. So we had our practices. Actually, I started with that. I started with a practice in the morning and then had a meeting with one of my clients and tried to squeeze in lunch there and catching up on emails. And then we had a second practice in the evening and I had another showing after practice. So actually yesterday was practice, showing, practice, showing.
Wow. And do you save time for yourself?
I try to. Yeah. I mean, real estate, you're working on the weekends too, but that's actually something that I'm trying to work on is like blocking out certain days during the week, even if it's, my schedule's different, at least 1 or 2 days where I'm not doing work. But
Yeah.
I think I'm still learning how to fit that into my schedule. It's a process,
Yeah.
but I definitely have my fun. I definitely try to go out with my friends or family and, take vacations here and there.
Yeah. That's absolutely great. Where can listeners follow your journey, find you, connect with you on social?
I think my biggest thing is my Instagram account. That's easiest for me to stay up to date. So my Instagram handle is closing with Cola, COLA.
Perfect. Well, Caroline, thank you. Congratulations on being recognized as one of the top 25 rookies of the year. Godspeed to you. Congratulations. And I wish you much further success. And thank you so much for spending the time with us today and for your candid feedback. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tina. I appreciate your time and the opportunity.
Thanks for listening to Unlocking Real Estate, My First Commission. We hope today's stories and insights gave you that extra spark to keep moving forward in your real estate career. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It helps us reach more listeners like you. And don't forget you can watch this or other episodes on our YouTube channel. We'd also love to hear from you. Send your comments, key takeaways, or recommendations for future guests to unlockingrealestate@colibrirealestate.com.